And one of the reasons why we included this presentation in the morning, it's called Windows, short names. It's called Windows 8. And I want to invite Eduardo Mangarelli. Eduardo, I have introduced you many, many times as Eduardo. Now you are Eduardo Mangarelli, Director of Technology for Latin America from Microsoft. Welcome to this meeting. Thank you for the invitation, Nicolás. Thank you for being part of this. And before I start, let me refer to some aspects of Windows 8 that I would like to share. We have probably read news about the re-engineering and the changes in Windows 8. And some of the aspects that I need to share with you have a lot to do with the smart devices, the new architecture of devices that the industry has. And we are used to Intel architecture, but today in many of the devices, the world of ARM and the different companies building ARM really change the whole setting. The processors are lighter, they consume less, they adapt best to mobile devices. By rethinking Windows and Windows 8, for the first time we have done re-architecture of Windows so that the same operation system works in Intel structures and ARM structures. So this is a new world before us with new tablets, PCs, laptops with different formats. And if we read the news over the last 6 weeks, we've seen how large producers of hardware have announced different formats, some that can be folded or are collapsible. And this is having access to new architectures, to new devices, by having the same operation system to cover all the scenarios. And this is interesting. I say one single operation system. For developers, this is interesting because you can think of the same application developed running in the same way in different formats. And part of this running in the same way in different formats has to do with same application that responds to the same characteristics and functionalities, whether I am in a touch scenario or a keyboard and mouse scenario, because one thing does not substitute another, and we know that the coexistence of multiple devices and the multiple ways of interacting will continue. So we need to respond. We need to respond to the consumer's needs in the best way so as to meet the requirements with this wealth of new devices in the market. The second thing I would like to share with you has to do with the opportunity for developers by marketplace and stores and applications, and how they have given us new mechanisms to access consumers and monetize applications that we didn't know so far. Today, consumers, by just clicking away, can download the application and pay for the application, which for us is a business model that is revolutionary, that is in its early stages. And you also mentioned the different marketplaces and the distribution model. Today, the standard in industry is that marketplaces distribute 70% of the profits with the developers and 30% is for the store or the marketplace. We have decided to incorporate the concept of store, and we call it Windows Stores in Windows 8, to distribute applications and to distribute exactly the same application to any device in any architecture, in any format, 4, 3, 16, 9, ARM architectures or Intel architectures. And we have also decided to change the equation of profitability for developers. So when one application is commercialized in the Windows Store, at the beginning there is a 70-30 ratio, 30% for the stores, 70% for the developers. But once the application goes over $25,000, it starts to be successful. And when it goes beyond $25,000 in 1 month or 1 week or 6 months afterwards, the equation changes, 80-20 ratio. So for developers, 10% more margin of profit or profitability, which is direct, and it's taken from the commercialized applications. And for those of you who are in the world of applications in stores, you know how valuable that 10% is, how it can become a significant advantage in your profitability. If we add to this the fact and today we talked about numbers, that the projection as from October 26, which is the date when we start commercializing, marketing new Windows 8 devices, 12 months ahead, the projection is 400 million devices in the markets that will run Windows 8. 400 million devices in 1 year. Yes, the marketing people told us 2/5 of the projection, if you like. But it's too complex. It's too complex for the equation. But then, 400 million devices. It's almost 500,000, right? Or 500,000. Well, we could do our calculations in whichever way you like. The interesting thing is that that figure is going to be integrated by devices in different formats. The traditional model of PCs, laptops, tablets in different formats. So let us not talk about figures. Let us talk about what we have been thinking about. Here I have with me a tablet with Windows 8. We said that on October 27, this will be available in the market, but some are available. You can download them if you are a subscriber. This is included in the final version. If you want a trial version, there is one you can get for 90 days free of charge. So the first thing I will do, I would log in here with my picture password. It's easy to log in if I have the touch platform. And first of all, this is navigation. And this is the experience of navigating in the new start. I not only have icons, this is what we see first. We call them tiles because each of them can be used to run an application but also refresh themselves, and I can show the user information in real time about what's going on. The first thing I will do then, I could navigate from one application to another, but first of all, let's see one of the applications, and this is not a joke. This is a real thing. This is real time. It's the same heading that we will see if it's real time connection. This is installed. This is part of the installation, part of Windows 8. This is for finance. The important thing are the characteristics of this application. First, we have looked for a model where applications take 100% of the exposure to user. You see there are no menus, no buttons. It's 100% of the relevant content for the user. If I want to see the actions, I have the bar, the app bar, the bar that allows me to bring certain operations or do certain actions. But the other two concepts that I want to share, which are independent of the application, but the application is a good example to show them, are the cross-cutting services, the cross-cutting services to the whole operation system. The first one is the share service. From any application, I can call the share application. And the interesting thing is that the applications that come up allow me to share. These are the applications that I have installed in my device that implement the capacity to share. So by integrating, this is very interesting. Those who developed the finance application never thought about whether to share it through mail or what. The application simply subscribes to all the sharing mechanisms, and this allows me this level of integration with any application. The other cross-cutting concept which I want to share is search. When I talk about search, this is contextual to where I'm standing. For example, I do an action in finance, and here in real time I have the actions that are the result of my search. From this search, I can also look in all the applications installed that have a search system. This is interesting because the companies that work with marketing see this right away. This is one way in which they can expose their application to users and consumers, regardless of whether they have to open up the application as users. As a result of a search, I, the provider, can be very, very close to the user to show information. The next thing I want to show you is another application which is very simple and which allows me to, this is my flight that I have to take tonight. So I see the status of my flight. This is the kind of thing that sometimes we want to check, we want to consult while I do something else. This is very common practice. So I can have my finance application open, but I can check my flight simultaneously. And this is multitask in real time. This same functionality is applicable in an RM or any other Intel application. We see how these two applications implement two different views. One is the complete screen view, and the other is what I call snap view. The snap view is reduced. It's like having two things pieced together. This is a reduced version that looks different. Why? Because the information is different. It's reduced. So the applications adapt to the new view. And it's interesting how we can run this in real time, going from one side to the other, and they are all simultaneous. Let me show you another application, which is called Planet ARG. This, for one specific country, takes all the sources or news providers and consolidates. So I have an overview, which is very complete, about the news in a given country. Here, I'm going to open a specific news, and I will see how, for this application, I can share it through the media. Or from this application, I can do a search in the same way as we saw before. And this application appears in the same model as we did before. And it can also respond to the concept of the snap view, to have this reduced view that I always, when you reduce it, it changes in the layout so that you can see the relevant things. Now this application, which implements the different services and capacities of Windows 8, we can announce that this was developed with a new GeneXus generated for Windows 8. This was the announcement. So first of all, to talk about GeneXus being available to generate this for Windows 8. And thank you for having invited us to make this joint announcement. And Eduardo, this is a pleasure for us to make this joint announcement. And let me invite the responsible of the generation of this generator of Windows 8, Mr. Silva, will tell us about this.
Good morning. Eduardo practically showed everything. I just want to show you another application, but I would like to talk about this new Windows 8 generator. It is a generator for the smart device platform that we have. You can generate for iPhone, BlackBerry, and Windows 8. It's also a new generator in the sense that we have generated for HTML5, which is one of the languages provided in Windows 8. I wanted to show you another application so that you can see from the GeneXus point of view how this generator works. And this application is here. This belongs to a prestigious soccer club in Uruguay that turned 121 years very recently. I'm starting to like this. Well, since last year we had another presentation, we tried to change the angle this year. This is sort of more historical oriented. Well, you will see. I have some history to show you in terms of soccer in Uruguay. We will get into this into more detail. Well, as you can see here, this is the main page that's called Mancha, which is a Peñarol soccer club in Uruguay. For the people who come from abroad, Manja refers to the name of the Peñarol Soccer Club, which is the most prestigious one in Uruguay, of course. I can tell you that the translator is listening to me and not to you, so she has translated everything like that. Here you can see the main page. In GeneXus, this would be a dashboard. This is where I choose the work with. Here you can see all the news, and this is the list of our working with, or in every row you can see one of these rectangles, which are the different pieces of news. Some of them are larger than others. This is something new that we added in the Tilo version, so that you could designed like this. In the trophies, here we have a problem because there were so many that we couldn't include them here. So we can get into this and we can see all of them. We had a scalability problem. Will you be showing the generator for stadium projects? Oh no. Some other clubs have very small stadiums, that's why we won't be able to show it here. In terms of history, we had to summarize, so we did a semantic zoom, so we can see every year here, and we could navigate here. We could do that at the beginning of the story of Peñarol, when it was founded in 1891, so you can see how old it really is. So this is being announced by Microsoft. I just gave him the device. I will talk in more depth about this tomorrow, before we have a presentation by Pablo Garcia from Microsoft, and today we have Wilson Pais with an overview of Windows 8. And before we have one more announcement, before closing, thanks to some insiders we have, we want to thank Roqueta, because we have the application for the Nacional Soccer Club. Thank you very much, dear friends. Well, this was what we wanted to tell you in this first presentation. I just want to make one last question to that pragmatic programmer. All this that we mentioned, the new Windows 8 generator, smart device, full Ajax, etc., all these things, are they good news or bad news for that pragmatic programmer? Is it good or is it bad? Well, I cannot answer that question. And the reason why we included this presentation this morning is precisely to give you this overview of what we think is going on in the industry, so that you can have these 3 days in order to find an answer to those questions. By the end of the third day, I would like you to have a reply that this is actually good news for all the GeneXus community, and that we have an opportunity that's as good as ever in the world of software development. My dear friends, thank you very much.